Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and Apple released macOS Tahoe 26.4 Beta 1. macOS Tahoe 26.4 Beta 1 is available to developers and public beta testers on all macOS 26 supported devices. Now this was released alongside many other updates such as iOS 26.4 Beta 1 and all of the other betas for iPadOS, tvOS, HomePodOS, watchOS, visionOS, and some older Mac updates as well. Now this came in at 6.78 gigabytes. This is on an M4 MacBook Air. This can vary in size, but I saw it all the way up to 17 gigabytes if it needs to install the whole OS. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the build number and talk about what's new. So we'll go to the Apple, then about this Mac. As you'll see, we're on the MacBook Air 13-inch M4, and you'll see the version is Tahoe 26.4. If we click on it, you can see the build number of 25E5207K. So it's the first beta, and we do have quite a few new changes and features. The first thing has to do with battery if you're on a MacBook. So if we go into our system settings here, then we go to battery. Under battery, of course, we have our battery health, but under charging, we have a little information icon. If we click on this, we now have a charge limit. We can set it to 80%, maybe if we want to leave it plugged into a display all the time, a studio display like this one, or you can leave it at 100% and let it manage itself. So you can set the limit to 100 or optimize battery charging options, of course. I typically leave this enabled. It will drop it down on its own, but again, you can fully manage this now in macOS 26.4. If we exit out of this, and this time we go into Safari, within Safari, you'll see that I have a few different tabs here, and they've finally brought back a feature. If we go into Safari and then Settings, within Settings, we now have the option for compact tabs again. It doesn't look exactly like it did before, but you'll see it's now compact if you prefer that. So we do have wide tabs here, and they'll shrink as you add more tabs, but you can leave it separate or compact if you prefer that. Another change they've made has to do with podcasts. Apple announced some changes to podcasts on their Apple Newsroom website, and if we go down and open up podcasts, give it a second to open here, you'll see that we have a new splash screen. We now have video podcasts that are integrated into the same podcast. So you'll see that we have watch or listen, switch seamlessly between audio and video right in the player, and offline viewing. And if we go into this podcast, we'll just click on it here. Once they convert this to allow for video and audio in the same podcast, we'll have a button for that. You'll see if we go into Apple's Newsroom website, they demoed it here where we have an option to turn video on and off, and you can seamlessly switch between the podcast with audio or video. So it just depends on which one you're listening to and whether it's set up. But this is huge for those that make podcasts. It's now a new standard, so you can seamlessly switch. Now, one new feature that Apple added in iOS 26.4 is a new playlist playground option. So far, I don't see this option in music on the Mac. They'll probably add it a little bit later, but basically what that is if you're creating a new playlist, you can then seamlessly create a playlist that is based off of what you've typed. It's a little bit choppy here as well, but as I scroll down, you'll see all of my playlists, but the new Apple Intelligence feature for that isn't here yet, so I've seen no changes there. Now, if we go into reminders, so if we scroll down to where we have reminders here, you'll see we're greeted with a new splash screen that says urgent reminders, auto-categorize, suggest reminders or suggested reminders, and time zones. Within reminders itself, we now have a new option for urgent. So it's a separate category. We can go into this. So maybe you set an alarm on your iPhone. It should show any urgent reminders here, but the alarm actually sounds on the phone, not necessarily on the Mac. But you actually have this section here separated away from just general reminders this time around. Now, if we go into the control center, there are some slight changes here with the overall liquid glass appearance. It's a little easier to see behind it as they've blurred this out a little more. It's not a huge change, it's very subtle, but I think they're continuing to refine it. There are some changes within settings though. If we go into System Settings, then under General, you'll see it now says AirDrop and Continuity. Prior to this, it actually said AirDrop and Handoff. If we go into this, they've rearranged this as well, where it now says Continuity, allow handoff between this Mac and your iCloud devices. There's also a new section for widgets and iPhone mirroring. So it shows the iPhone that will be used for iPhone mirroring and widgets. And you'll see it's connected to my current iPhone. So again, they've just redone some of these options. Also, there's a new option under iCloud. So if we scroll down to where we have iCloud, We have some new options here where it says data access on iCloud.com. This used to say access iCloud data on the web, and now it says data access on iCloud.com. If we go into this, you'll see it says allow data access, allow search, and then we have advanced. So you can clear this out, but we can now search across iCloud.com if you want to do that. It says allow your trusted Apple devices to provide search results for iCloud Drive and iCloud Photos when you're using iCloud.com. So it's just trying to integrate that and bring that all into Spotlight. And speaking of Spotlight, if we go into those options, on the left here, if we go into Spotlight, we scroll down a little ways, down toward the bottom. Under the section where it says Results from System, there's a new option under Files. If we click the little eye here, we have options to further customize what's shown in our results when we're using Spotlight for files. So for example, if we don't want to show maybe developer files or music or other or presentations or spreadsheets, we can eliminate those from search entirely. We can also change so we have hidden file types here. So it says to hide file types from appearing in Spotlight Search, click the plus or drag and drop the file type with the extension. So you could hide anything with a specific extension on it, whether that's a PNG, a JPEG, or maybe just a file for Excel or something like that. Whatever works for you, you can change it by extension as well. Another thing that's been updated is Freeform. Back when Apple introduced Apple Creative Studio, they introduced the new Final Cut Pro icons and the new updates, and now they've updated Freeform with this update. So you'll see there's a new icon here. If we open it up, you'll see it has a new splash screen that says Introducing Tables in Freeform, and most of this is the same though. But if we click Continue, maybe we'll resize the window here a little bit, move it around, and there's a couple things that have been changed. Most of this is just refinement this time around, but basically they've updated it. So if we go to Freeform, and now it says Privacy and Analytics, where before it said Reset Identifier, and then they've added glyphs to just about every one of these. So just like they've done within Finder in previous versions, they've added glyphs to pretty much every option here. So you'll see there's glyphs next to every single option, and they're just making things more consistent and finally finished. Now, Freeform itself has this button here this time around, and if we click on it, you'll see it brings up shapes. So this isn't something that's in the previous version, but you can go here and see basic, geometry, objects, animals, nature, and you can search for it as well. So there's lots of different things if you're looking for specific glyphs. If you have an application that was originally designed to run on older Macs that were not Apple Silicon based and they use Rosetta to sort of translate that information, such as this old Minecraft version, you'll now get a warning the first time you open it that says support ending for Intel based apps. So you'll see here, if we click on Learn More, we can view Apple support, and it will tell us more about this. We're using Intel-based apps on Mac with Apple Silicon is going to end soon. So it says if you get a notification that support is ending for Intel-based apps and that the app or component used by the app will not work in the future. So you can learn all about this, and they're discontinuing it. So that's something that they're changing with this update. Also with macOS 26.4, we do expect some new emoji. This will comply with the latest Unicode standard. Apple doesn't come up with the emoji, but they rather just comply with the Unicode standard you can see here. So we have things such as maybe a Sasquatch, looks like a whale, as well as a trombone, and a few other things. You can see more detail about it here, and I'll link this in the description below. There are no updates to Apple Intelligence and Siri at this point. That's something that's probably coming later on. When I first installed this on iOS 26.4, it looked like it may have updated the model in the background, but there was no noticeable changes just yet. When it comes to bugs and bug fixes, well, one good thing is they've updated the corner radius bug. What that means is if we go into maybe Safari here, within Safari in previous versions, if I wanted to resize this, when you pulled to resize, it was off of the corner because the corner was rounded now instead of squared. So now you'll see it follows the corner roundness and pulls where you would expect. So it looks like they've resolved this time around, and it's working like you would expect. Maybe they'll refine it a little bit more, but it's finally working like we have seen in previous versions. Also, there's quite a few other issues. So if we go to Apple's release note website, you'll see if we scroll down to macOS 26.4 and take a look at the release notes. Again, this is on their public-facing website. They've resolved some issues, for example, in AppKit, but there's still some known issues remaining. So quite a few things going on here, such as external boot. When installing an external disk, some configurations of M1 Apple Silicon Macs might panic at boot. Also, there's some known issues with external media. HFS external media might fail to mount automatically. For example, using the application ScreenFlow that I'm recording this video with, Typically, you can just mount that if you want to install it and it will work fine. I had some issues with it on macOS 26.4 and had to uninstall it. And when I went to reinstall it and then mount the DMG file, it wouldn't open. I had to do that within Terminal in order to get it to work. So it even tells you here that's the workaround, so you can use Terminal to do that. So just keep in mind, if you're going to use this update, there's going to be some bugs. There's some known issues with logins, known issues with internet accounts, and of course, these should all be resolved by the time it releases to the public. It is still in testing, but again, here's that deprecation I talked about with Rosetta, and then some resolved issues with Swift UI and virtualization. Now, if you're wondering if you should install macOS Tahoe 26.4 Beta 1, at this point, I would say absolutely not unless you have a test Mac or a secondary Mac, especially if those deprecations with Rosetta-based applications apply to you, and then you have issues with HFS external media or anything like that. I would hold off, as these should be resolved by the time it's released to the public, as it's currently in beta. So just keep that in mind. There's definitely some issues here and there, but they are making improvements and steps forward. There will be security updates, I would imagine, as well, and when it comes to performance, so far it's pretty good. There's some stutters here and there, as you saw maybe here with loading icons going into our application list, and scrolling seems to be a little bit stuttery here. That can be improved, of course, in the future, and on the M4 Mac, this is 60 Hz as well, so just keep that in mind, but everything else seems to be nice and smooth and fast, but again, I wouldn't put it on your major work Mac or what you use regularly. Battery life is yet to be seen, and that will take a few days to measure, but overall it seems like a decent update. I'm glad they brought back the compact tab view in Safari, and of course the fix for the corner radius. But let me know if you've noticed anything else I haven't mentioned in the comments below, and of course I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.